us now, Steve Forbes, Forbes Media Chairman, Editor-in-Chief, and Judy Shelton, Senior Fellow at the Independent Institute and author of Good as Gold, How to Unleash the Power of Sound Money. You know, Judy Shelton, if you want to stimulate a better economy, why not cut tax rates and deregulate business? I mean, I know this Fed stuff, blah, 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 a quarter of a point, and really, it's not going to do anything, has no meaning whatsoever, and it isn't even a good policy approach. I mean, I would just say, how about supply-side revolution? How about lower tax rates, deregulate business? Now, that would take the economy to 4% plus.
Those would be real improvements.
You're with me on that.
And now we're talking about productive economic
Now we're
growth.
talking, period.
Now we're talking,
we're getting heated up here. I mean, all this other stuff, just gibberish. It's all it is, it's gibberish. I'm sorry, please continue.
No, it's a shame that we end up being so fixated on what a committee of 12 voting members that meets 8 times a year is deemed to be in charge of the economy. The economy is the productive output of creative individuals who respond very well to lower taxes, less regulation, smart energy policy, savvy trade policy. All we're missing is stable money. And when the Fed ratchets up and down, it produces just the opposite and leaves everybody uncertain, wondering what every nuanced statement could possibly mean.
I mean, Steve Forbes, I don't care. They want to drop the Fed funds rate a quarter point, half point. Fine. I don't care. It's not worth fighting over. But, I mean, I'd like to see relatively stable interest rates, and I'd like to see improvement in fiscal policy, which is what's been lacking these many years. I say this not only to knock the Fed, although I want to knock the Fed because they do not control the economy, as Judy Shelton just said, but really, what is it that produces growth? It isn't quarter points on the Fed funds rate.
No, it isn't. And the Fed funds rate doesn't matter anymore. The big thing is what the Fed is paying on bank reserves, which is billions and tens of billions of dollars a year, now standing at 5.4%. Should probably be half that if you had a real market. And so in interest rates, it's like rent control. Who gave the Fed authority to have rent control over what people pay to rent money? Just not right. And so the Fed shouldn't even be in the business of trying to regulate the activity of the economy. Oh, it may stimulate it too much. I'm going to say a bad word, but I won't. It's a family show. But the fact of the matter is the Fed should leave the economy alone. If it wants full employment, its role to be have a stable dollar and let the government cut taxes, deregulate, and by golly, the American economy would prosper, and the world would imitate us. Global prosperity.
That's exactly right, by the way. That's a really important point. That's what happened in the Reagan years. Reagan slashed tax rates, and in the next decade, so did everybody else. It's fascinating. But by the way, if you had 4% growth, the Federal Reserve would probably tighten interest rates and stop it's come around full circle. I mean, that's how much they don't understand a modern economy or any economy. They just don't. It's all this little minuscule interest rate stuff. They'd probably try to stop 4%.
Well, ask a very simple question. If people started to get raises, are they going to start sweating at night because they're overheating?
Yeah, the Fed would tighten. Right. We don't want real wages to go up.
The idea the economy's overheating. Do people sweat when they get more prosperous? I don't think so.
Actually, these Fed people are now saying that 10 or 11 million illegal immigrants is a good thing. It was a good thing because it brought down wages for everybody, okay? And that held down inflation. It makes the Fed's job easier. I mean, that's how perverted this story has become.
The perverse incentives are all over the place coming from monetary policy. And I thought Steve made an excellent point because you have the Fed raising interest rates by paying banks not to make loans.
Yes.
This is like paying people not to work, the fiscal equivalent. This is like paying farmers not to grow crops. It is a perverse incentive. And if we would only quit waiting to hear what the next Fed speechmaker is going to say. And instead, imagine if we let market forces of demand and supply determine the cost of capital.
Market forces, right. How about that? I just had to think that through. I had to process that for 1 minute. You slipped it in very quickly.
You thought central planning was better, I'm sure.
No, I just didn't. I just want to make sure. All right, I got Kamala Harris on fracking. I want to talk about this, and then I want to talk about corporate taxes and uncertainty. Here's the sound on Kamala Harris. I beg your pardon. I want to get that right. Kamala Harris on the fracking ban. Here it is, September 4th, 2019.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yes, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right?
Okay, so now Steve Forbes, she says her spokesperson said that she no longer believes that. Okay, fine. The point is, the Biden-Harris policy towards energy was basically a ban on fracking. They did everything they could. They're over-regulating it. They're stopping drilling. They're stopping leasing. They're stopping LNG. They want you to buy electric vehicles that no one particularly wants. Now, my question here is, if you're a businessman, you are a businessman, and you heard this stuff, businesswoman, oops, and you heard this stuff, and you heard higher corporate taxes could be on the way. Kamala is in favor of higher corporate taxes. I got to get her name right. What would you do? Okay, what would you do? Is there an uncertainty tax here?
You bet there is. You have to, when you make an investment, it's not just for 4 months, 5 months, or whatever. It is for 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Commercial building, 39 years depreciation. So, of course, you're going to pay attention to tax rates. And if it's uncertain, it's not just tax rates, it's also the whole slew of the regulations, avalanche of regulations that are coming along that raise the cost of doing business. So take what they want to do on rent control. They want national rent control now on apartments. If you're an apartment owner, are you going to invest if you think the politicians are going to take away your money or make it unprofitable to do so? So it hurts the economy. That's why I can't get over it. These people who portray themselves as tribunes of the people end up hurting those with the least, hurting everyone.
Indeed. Judy Shelton, I don't know. The question here, we just have to sweat it out until the election. I mean, I think the election, here's my last point, is the election more important than the quarter-point Fed funds rate? That's really the question.
Infinitely more important.
Yeah, that's it.
It's the direction of the future of the country.
Yeah.
Are we going to be a country that rewards productive activity, that encourages individual creativity, that supports small business by giving them a stable, certain outlook where they can trust where the money is dependable, and when the regulatory burden, it has them in mind and they don't have senseless regulations being forced on them? That's what we want to encourage and support. And otherwise, we're talking about redistribution and a government knows best mentality.
You know what's cool? Kamala supported the Bernie Sanders Medicare for all, single payer, nationalized health care. There's a price tag there of $32 trillion. Okay? Yeah, but that's nothing. That's piker stuff. Janet Yellen came out the other day and basically said $3 trillion a year, $78 trillion to stop carbon by 2050. So $32 trillion is probably a bargain for nationalizing health care. We got $78 trillion. This is Janet Yellen, a former Fed chairperson.
Correct.
Who's supposed to be, you know, no inflation. I got to get out. But I just wanted to put that in.
Well, no one is accusing Kamala of being Margaret Thatcher, because she would have said, sure, you can be generous spending other people's money.
That's $100 trillion right there, near it. My arithmetic. 32 plus 70. And
and it's not just 110 trillion. It's a depressed economy. No activity, high unemployment.
Oh, you're too tough on them, Steve Forbes. You're way too tough on them, for heaven's sakes. Steve Forbes and Judy Shelton. We didn't really do much Fed Watch.